The doors opened, and silence swallowed the chamber. Ambassador David Mercer stepped into the grand hall of the Galactic Council, and for a moment he forgot how to breathe. The chamber stretched upward for what seemed like kilometers. Thousands of seats rose in endless tiers, each one holding a creature unlike anything Earth had ever imagined. Some had scales that shimmered like liquid metal. Others floated in anti-gravity pods, their bodies made of pure gas. A few existed only as patterns of light, dancing in crystalline containers. 12,000 representatives from 900 civilizations watched him enter. Behind David walked his team. Commander Lena Okongwu, head of Earth's defense forces, kept her hand near her sidearm, even though she knew it would be useless here. Dr. Samuel Vega, their chief scientist, clutched a data tablet containing everything humanity knew about the galaxy, which was almost nothing. Cultural advisor Maya Patel brought up the rear, her eyes moving constantly, studying every alien face for any sign of what was coming. They were the first humans to leave Earth's solar system. They were the first humans to stand before the galaxy's rulers. And based on the fear in every alien eye, David suspected they might be the last. High Arbiter Colvex rose from the central platform. The creature stood 4 meters tall, its body covered in bony plates that clicked together when it moved. 6 eyes arranged in a circle around its head, focused on the human delegation. "You should not be here," Colvex said. Its voice came through their translators as a deep rumble. Earth was sealed. The barrier was meant to last forever. David had prepared for many possible greetings. This was not one of them. "The barrier fell 3 months ago," he said, keeping his voice steady. "We came to establish peaceful contact with the galactic community." A sound rippled through the chamber. It took David a moment to realize it was laughter, though it came in forms he did not recognize. Clicking, whistling, vibrating, humming. Every species had its own way of expressing disbelief. "Peaceful contact," Colvex repeated. "Do you know why the barrier existed, human? Do you know what you are?" David glanced at Lena. She gave him a slight shake of her head. They had found the barrier station, had learned some fragments of truth, but the full picture remained hidden. "We know we were isolated," David said. "We know it was deliberate. We came here seeking answers." Colvex's plates clicked rapidly, a sign David could not interpret. "Then let me give you an answer, human. The barrier was built 11,000 years ago by the greatest civilization this galaxy has ever known. They called themselves the architects. They could reshape stars, fold space, create life from nothing. And they built that barrier around your world because they were terrified of what you would become." The laughter in the chamber died. Now there was only fear. "The architects are gone now," Colvex continued. "But their final act was to seal Earth away from the rest of existence. They left warnings carved into the fabric of space itself. Do not open the barrier. Do not wake the humans. Do not let them remember what they are." Maya leaned close to David's ear. "This is not going well." "I noticed," David whispered back. He stepped forward, addressing the full council. "Whatever the architects feared, we are not that. We are explorers, scientists, diplomats. We spent the last 3 centuries fighting among ourselves, barely surviving our own weapons. We are not a threat to anyone." "That is precisely what makes you dangerous," said a new voice. The speaker floated down from the upper tiers. It was a creature of pure light, shifting through colors David had no names for. When it spoke, every translator in the chamber picked up its words simultaneously. "I am Elder Orvax of the Lumineth Collective. My people have kept records since before most species in this chamber evolved. We remember the architects. We remember their warnings. And we remember what they told us about humanity." Orvax's light pulsed brighter. "Humans are not natural, Ambassador. You were created, designed. The architects took their own essence, stripped away all memory and knowledge, and placed it on a young planet to evolve fresh. You are their children, their heirs, their replacements. Samuel's tablet beeped. He looked at it, then looked at David with wide eyes. The energy signatures match, he whispered. The station we found, the barrier itself, the readings I took from the archive. They match human DNA at the quantum level. David felt the ground shifting beneath him, metaphorically and almost literally. Why? He asked Orvax. Why would they do that? Because they were dying, Orvax answered. Not as individuals, but as a species. They had reached the limit of what they could become. They believed that by starting over, by creating a new version of themselves, without the weight of their history, they could overcome that limit. They believed humans would surpass them. Kalvex slammed a massive fist against its podium. And that is why the barrier existed. That is why Earth was sealed. The architects may have believed you would be their salvation, but the rest of us knew better. We knew that anything powerful enough to replace the architects would be powerful enough to destroy us all. David understood now. The fear in every alien eye was not confusion or hostility. It was the terror of prey animals seeing a predator walk into their midst. We voted, Kalvex said. 900 civilizations unanimous. When the barrier fell, we activated ancient protocols. Protocols designed for exactly this moment. Lena grabbed David's arm. Ambassador, sensors are picking up something at the edge of the system. Multiple contacts. Hundreds of them. David turned back to Kalvex. What have you done? What we had to do, the Arbiter answered. What the architects should have done 11,000 years ago. We have sent a fleet to sterilize your world. By the time you return home, there will be nothing left. Earth will burn, and humanity will be erased from existence. The chamber erupted. Species that had been silent began calling for order, for mercy, for faster action. Some demanded humanity be captured and studied. Others wanted them executed on the spot. David stood in the center of the chaos, his mind racing. 3 months ago, he had been a diplomat handling trade disputes between nations. Now he was watching his entire species receive a death sentence. Maya grabbed his shoulder. David, we need to leave. Now, if we can reach our ship or on Earth, maybe they can do something. Do what? Samuel asked. We have no weapons that can fight that fleet. We have no technology that can stop them. Actually, said a voice none of them recognized, you do. The chamber fell silent again. Every eye turned to the source of the voice. It came from David's own chest, from the small artifact he had taken from the barrier station. A fragment of crystal, no bigger than his thumb, which had been silent until this moment. Now it glowed with inner light, and it spoke with a voice older than the stars. Children of Earth, the crystal said, I have waited 11,000 years for you to hear this message. The Arbiter speaks truth. You are our heirs. And like all heirs, you have inherited more than you know. The crystal's light expanded, filling the chamber with images. Star maps, blueprints, weapon systems of incomprehensible power. The fleet approaching Earth will fail, the crystal continued. Your world is not undefended. It never was. When the first human sets foot on Earth's soil, knowing the truth of what you are, the inheritance will activate. And then the galaxy will learn why the architects sealed you away. The light faded. The crystal went dark. David looked at Lena, at Samuel, at Maya. Then he looked at Kalvex, whose 6 eyes had gone wide with something beyond fear. It seems, David said quietly, that we have more to discuss than you thought. He turned and walked toward the exit, his team falling in behind him. Where are you going? Kalvex demanded. David did not look back. Home. I need to be there when that fleet arrives. I need to see what happens when humanity finally learns what we really are. The doors closed behind them, leaving 900 civilizations in stunned silence. The race to Earth had begun. The human ship tore through hyperspace at speeds its engines were never designed to handle. Warning lights flashed across every console. The hull groaned under stresses that should have torn it apart. But somehow, impossibly, the vessel held together. David Mercer stood at the bridge viewport, watching the strange lights of faster-than-light travel swirl around them. Behind him, his crew worked frantically to keep their ship from coming apart. "We are still 6 hours from Earth," Lena reported. "The alien fleet will arrive in 4. Can we go faster?" David asked. Samuel looked up from his console, his face pale. "We are already exceeding every safety limit by 300%. The engines should have exploded an hour ago. I do not understand why we are still alive." Maya held up the crystal artifact from the barrier station. It pulsed with soft light, matching the rhythm of the ship's engines. "I think this might be why. It is doing something to our systems, enhancing them." David took the crystal from her hand. It felt warm against his palm, almost alive. "Can you hear me?" He asked it. The crystal remained silent. "It spoke once," Samuel said. "Maybe it only activates when necessary." "Then I hope it finds it necessary to activate again soon," David muttered. On Earth, chaos had already begun. Director Helena Vasquez stood in the United Nations Emergency Command Center, surrounded by screens showing military deployments across the globe. Every nation had mobilized. Every we, upon humanity possessed, was being prepared. And everyone knew it would not be enough. "The fleet numbers over 800 vessels," General Marcus Foster reported. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too many wars. Based on the data Ambassador Mercer transmitted, the smallest of those ships outguns our entire nuclear arsenal. "What about the defense system the artifact mentioned?" Helena asked. "We found something," said Dr. Amara O.C., head of the scientific team investigating the barrier station data. "Beneath the Himalayas, almost 20 kilometers underground, ancient structures that match the architect technology signatures. But we have no idea how to activate them." Helena looked at the screens showing the approaching fleet. Hundreds of dots moving steadily toward Earth. 4 hours until arrival. Maybe 3 until they were in weapons range. "Keep trying," she said. "Whatever it takes." Aboard the flagship of the Galactic Fleet, Admiral Krovoth studied the blue planet growing larger in his view screen. The reptilian commander had led countless extermination missions in his career. Rogue species. Failed experiments. Civilizations that grew too dangerous to tolerate. None of them had ever given him pause. This one was different. "Admiral," his tactical officer reported, "long-range scans detect no defensive systems. No orbital platforms. No weapons grid. The planet appears completely undefended." "It is a trap," Krovoth said immediately. "The architects did not seal this world for 11,000 years just to leave it helpless. With respect, Admiral, the architects have been dead for millennia. Whatever defenses they prepared may have failed long ago." Krovoth did not believe that. The architects never failed. Everything they built lasted forever. If Earth appeared undefended, it was because the defense was hidden. "Maintain current approach," he ordered. "But keep all weapons charged and shields at maximum. If anything moves on that planet, I want it destroyed before it can react." The fleet advanced. David's ship burst out of hyperspace on the dark side of Earth's moon. Immediately, his sensors screamed warnings. "The fleet is here," Lena said. "They arrived early. They are already in orbit." Through the viewport, David could see them. Hundreds of massive warships arranged in a sphere around his homeworld. Their weapons glowed with barely contained energy. At any moment, they would fire, and 8 billion people would die. We are too late, Maya whispered. No, David said. He gripped the crystal tighter. We cannot be too late. There has to be something we can do. The crystal suddenly blazed with light. David felt heat surge through his hand, up his arm, into his mind. Images flooded his consciousness. A chamber deep beneath the mountains. A throne carved from living stone. A voice telling him what he needed to do. I know where to go, he gasped. I know how to activate it. Activate what? Samuel demanded. Everything. David transmitted coordinates to Earth's emergency command. Then he pointed their ship toward the atmosphere. Get us down there. Fastest possible descent. That will burn us up, Lena protested. Do it anyway. The ship plunged toward Earth, its hull glowing red with friction. Inside the atmosphere, it should have disintegrated. Instead, a bubble of energy formed around it, pushing the heat away. The crystal was protecting them. They crashed in the Himalayan foothills, the ship carving a trench through rock and ice before coming to rest against a mountainside. Somehow, impossibly, everyone survived. David was already running before the ship stopped sliding. He knew exactly where to go. The crystal had shown him a path, a tunnel hidden behind a waterfall, frozen for 10,000 years. He found it, broke through the ice, and descended into darkness behind him. His team struggled to keep up. David, wait, Lena called. We do not know what is down there. I do, he called back. I know exactly what is down there. The tunnel opened into a vast cavern, lit by a soft glow that seemed to come from the walls themselves. In the center stood a throne carved from crystal identical to the artifact in David's hand. It was enormous, built for someone twice human size. And it was waiting. Helena Vasquez's voice crackled over his communicator. Ambassador, our sensors are showing massive energy buildups in your location. What is happening? I am about to find out, David said. He approached the throne. The crystal in his hand hummed with anticipation. He could feel it calling to him, urging him forward. David, Maya said softly, we do not know what this will do to you. I know. He looked back at his team. But we are out of options. That fleet is going to fire any minute. 8 billion people are counting on us. On me. He sat in the throne. For a moment, nothing happened. Then light erupted from every surface. David screamed as energy poured into him, through him, rewriting something fundamental in his being. He felt the planet beneath him, felt its core pulsing like a heartbeat. He felt connections forming, reaching out into space, touching the fleet above. Aboard his flagship, Admiral Kroveth watched his screens fill with static. Report, he demanded. What is happening? Unknown energy surged from the planet's surface, his tactical officer said. It is. Admiral, it is interfacing with our systems. All ships report. Every light on the bridge went out. Then came back on, blazing red. A voice filled the chamber. It came from everywhere at once, speaking in every language the fleet knew simultaneously. You came to destroy the children of the architects, the voice said. It was David's voice, but also something more. Something older. Something vast. You came to finish what the galaxy started 11,000 years ago. Kroveth tried to speak, but his translator had stopped working. The architects knew this day would come. They prepared for it. And now their preparation awakens. Outside the flagship's viewport, Earth began to glow. Patterns appeared across the planet's surface. Lines of energy connecting continents, oceans, poles. The entire world became a single massive circuit. Then the energy fired upward, not weapons, not beams of destruction. Something worse. A pulse of pure force that hit the fleet like a wave and kept going. The first ships to be struck simply stopped. Their engines died. Their weapons went cold. Their crews found themselves frozen in place, unable to move or speak. Then the ships began to change. Their hulls warped, softened, flowed like liquid metal. "What is happening to them?" Lena whispered. David's eyes had turned white, glowing with the same energy that surrounded Earth. When he spoke, his voice echoed with harmonics no human throat should produce. "They are being unmade, returned to their component atoms, erased from existence without violence, without death, simply ... undone." One by one, the fleet's ships dissolved into clouds of particles that scattered on the solar wind. 800 vessels, millions of crew members, gone in minutes. Then the energy stopped. The glow faded from Earth's surface. David collapsed from the throne, unconscious but alive. Maya caught him before he hit the ground. "Is it over?" Samuel looked at his instruments, then out at the sky where a fleet had been moments ago. "No," he said quietly. "I think it is just beginning." That pulse did not just destroy the fleet. It broadcast something. A message. A signal. What kind of signal? Samuel's face was pale. A summons. It went out to every system in the galaxy, every planet, every station. And it said one thing. He met Maya's eyes. "The children are awake. Judgment is coming." Above them, the stars waited. And across the galaxy, 900 civilizations began to tremble. 3 weeks had passed since the fleet disappeared. David Mercer stood at the window of the newly constructed diplomatic center, watching ships arrive from across the galaxy. They came in waves now, hundreds every day. Not warships this time, but diplomatic vessels, cargo transports, refugee ships. The destruction of the galactic fleet had sent shockwaves through every civilization in known space. Some came seeking alliance. Others came begging for mercy. A few came hoping to understand what humanity had become. David was not sure he understood it himself. "Ambassador, the Dominion delegation is requesting an immediate audience," said Maya, appearing at his side with a tablet full of schedules. "They claim to have information about the architects that we need to hear." "They all claim that," David said. "Everyone wants to be the one who explains our own history to us. This one might be different. Their representative is named Corvex. He is the nephew of the High Arbiter who ordered the attack on Earth." David turned. "The one who tried to exterminate us wants to talk?" His exact words were, "I come to confess, not to negotiate." That was different. David met Corvex in a secure chamber deep beneath the diplomatic center. The alien was smaller than his uncle, his bony plates a darker shade of gray. He carried no weapons, no guards, no diplomatic immunity. He had come alone. "You could have been killed the moment you entered our atmosphere," David said. "Why come here?" Corvex lowered his great head. "Because what my people did, what the council did, was wrong. And because the truth of why we did it is even worse than you know." He activated a holographic display from a device strapped to his wrist. Images filled the air between them. Ancient images. Records from the time of the architects. "Your crystal artifact told you that the architects created humanity to replace them," Corvex said. "That is true. But it did not tell you everything. It did not tell you what happened when the other species learned of their plan. The images showed war. Not the clean, technological warfare David had imagined. This was brutal, savage. Hundreds of species rising up against their creators, using stolen technology and sheer numbers to overwhelm the most advanced civilization in galactic history. "We killed them," Corvex said. "Not just defeated, exterminated, hunted down every last architect and destroyed them. Then we erased the records. rewrote history, made ourselves the founders of galactic civilization instead of the murderers who tore it down. David felt cold. Why? Because we were afraid. The architects had ruled for billions of years. They were gods to us. When we learned they planned to replace themselves with a new species, a species they considered superior, we could not accept it. If they had succeeded, we would have become irrelevant, extinct, so we struck first. And Earth? The barrier? Corvex's 6 eyes closed. The architects saw the rebellion coming. They hid humanity away before we could reach them. The barrier was their final gift to you, a shield we could not break. We tried for centuries. Eventually, we gave up and hoped you would simply die out on your own. But we did not. No, you thrived. You evolved exactly as the architects predicted. And when the barrier finally fell, we panicked. We sent the fleet before any of us could think clearly about what we were doing. He opened his eyes. I am not here to ask forgiveness, Ambassador. I am here to warn you. Warn us about what? The Council is meeting now, in emergency session. After what happened to the fleet, they are terrified. Some want to surrender to humanity completely. Others want to unite every remaining military force in the galaxy and strike while you are still learning to use the architect's technology. David leaned forward. Which side is winning? The side that wants to fight. They have 48 hours to assemble their forces. Then they will launch an attack that makes the first fleet look like a scouting party. How many ships? 50,000. Perhaps more. David sat back. The first fleet had been 800 ships, and it had taken everything Earth had to stop them. 50,000 was impossible. Why tell us this? He asked. You are betraying your own people. Corvex stood. My people murdered the architects and have spent 11,000 years profiting from that crime. We told ourselves we were protecting the galaxy. We told ourselves humans would have been dangerous. But the truth is, we were simply afraid of being surpassed. That fear led us to genocide once. I will not let it lead us there again. He turned to leave, then stopped at the door. There is one more thing you should know, Ambassador. The pulse that destroyed the fleet, the message it sent across the galaxy. It was not just a warning. It was an invitation. An invitation to what? To judgment. The architects did not just build Earth as a refuge. They built it as a court, a place where the galaxy would eventually have to answer for what it did. That is why everyone is so afraid. They know that sooner or later, they will have to stand before humanity and explain why they murdered your parents. He left. David sat alone in the silence, the weight of 11,000 years pressing down on him. Within hours, the situation deteriorated. Reports flooded in from human ships monitoring the galaxy. The United Civilizations Armada was assembling faster than Corvex had predicted. Not 48 hours, 24 at most. And the numbers were even worse than feared. 60,000 ships. 80,000. The count kept climbing. David called an emergency meeting with Earth's leadership. Helena Vasquez, General Foster, Dr. Asay, and the rest of the Command Council gathered in the Himalayan bunker, the same chamber where David had activated Earth's defense system 3 weeks ago. Can we do it again? Helena asked. The pulse, the thing that stopped the first fleet. Can we use it against this one? David shook his head. The throne is not responding to me anymore. Whatever connection I had during the first attack, it burned out. I cannot reach it. Then we find another way, General Foster said. There must be other defenses, other systems. Dr. Asay pulled up schematics on the main display. We have been mapping the architect structures around the planet. There are thousands of them, all interconnected. But without the throne, we have no way to activate any of them. It is like having a nuclear submarine with no launch codes. What about the crystal? Maya asked. It spoke to David before. Maybe it can help again. David took the artifact from his pocket. It had been silent since the battle, dark and cold as ordinary stone. I have tried. It does not respond. Then we are dead, Helena said flatly. We cannot fight 80,000 ships. We cannot run. And we cannot negotiate with people who want us extinct. Silence filled the chamber. Then a new voice spoke. There may be another option. Everyone turned. Standing in the doorway was a figure none of them had seen before. She appeared human, a woman in her 30s with dark skin and eyes that seemed to hold starlight within them. But she had not entered through any door. She had simply appeared. Who are you? General Foster demanded, reaching for his weapon. I am called the Keeper, the woman said. I am the last echo of the architects, preserved in the structures beneath this planet for 11,000 years. I have been waiting for this moment. David stepped forward. Waiting for what? For the choice. She walked to the center of the room, her footsteps making no sound. The defense system you activated was never meant to fight wars. It was meant to force a decision. When the fleet was destroyed, the pulse did not just eliminate an enemy. It showed the galaxy what humanity could become. Now they must decide. Do they destroy you before you reach your full potential, or do they accept that the architect's plan succeeded? They have already decided, Helena said. They are sending their entire military. Yes, because they are afraid. They have been afraid for 11,000 years. Fear made them kill the architects. Fear made them seal Earth away. And fear is driving them now. The Keeper met David's eyes. But fear can be broken if you are willing to take a risk. What kind of risk? The defense system has another function, one the architects hoped would never be necessary. It can broadcast not a warning, not a threat, but the truth. Every memory preserved in these structures, every record of what actually happened during the genocide, every thought the architects had about why they created humanity. It can be transmitted to every mind in the galaxy simultaneously. That would cause chaos, Samuel said. Every civilization would have to face what they did. Yes, some would break. Others would rage. But a few, perhaps enough, might choose differently. They might choose to stop fighting and start listening. David looked at the crystal in his hand. It had begun to glow faintly. What happens if it does not work? He asked. What happens if they choose to attack anyway? The Keeper's expression was sad. Then the final defense activates, the one the architects built as an absolute last resort. Earth itself becomes the weapon. The entire planet transforms into a single concentrated blast of energy that would sterilize half the galaxy. Helena went pale. You mean we would die? Everyone would die. Humanity, the attacking fleet, every civilization within 10,000 light years. The architects called it the Mercy Protocol. If their children could not live in peace, then no one would live at all. The room was silent. David looked at his people, at Helena, who had led Earth through 3 weeks of impossible decisions, at Lena, who had protected him since the beginning, at Maya and Samuel, who had translated an alien galaxy into something humanity could understand, at General Foster, whose entire career had been preparing for a war he never wanted to fight. We have 24 hours, David said finally. 24 hours to convince the galaxy to put down their weapons and face the truth. And if we fail? He did not finish the sentence. He did not have to. The countdown had begun. 12 hours remained. The Armada had grown beyond all predictions. 90,000 ships now converged on Earth's solar system, representing the combined military might of 400 civilizations. They came with weapons designed to crack planets, shields capable of withstanding supernovas, and a single unified purpose, Eliminate humanity before humanity eliminated them. David Mercer stood in the activation chamber, surrounded by the ancient technology of the architects. The Keeper floated nearby, her form flickering like a candle in wind. She was growing weaker, her energy reserves draining after 11 millennia of waiting. "The broadcast system is ready," she said. "But I must warn you, Ambassador. What I did not mention before is that the truth transmission requires a conduit, a living mind to channel the memories through." David had suspected as much. "Let me guess. A human mind." Yes, the architects designed it that way intentionally. They wanted their children to be the ones who delivered judgment, not their machines. And what happens to the conduit? The Keeper's silence was answer enough. Maya stepped forward. "David, no. There has to be another way." "There is not." He turned to face his team. They had all followed him down into the mountain, refusing to stay behind. Lena, Samuel, Maya, even Helena Vasquez had come. They knew what was at stake. 11,000 years ago, the architects were murdered for trying to create something better, David said. They had centuries to prepare, endless resources, technology, beyond imagination. And they chose to use it all to give humanity a chance. Not a guarantee, just a chance. He looked at the crystal in his hand, now glowing bright enough to cast shadows. "If I do nothing, the Armada arrives. Either we die fighting, or the Mercy Protocol triggers and everyone dies. Billions of humans, trillions of aliens. All of it gone because nobody was willing to tell the truth. But if you do this," Maya said, her voice breaking, "you die anyway." "How is that better?" "Because the truth will survive. Because the galaxy will have to look at itself honestly, maybe for the first time ever. And because some of them, maybe enough of them, will choose to be better." Lena shook her head. "You do not know that. You are gambling everything on hope." "Yes," David agreed. "I am. But the architects did the same thing when they created us. They could have fought back. They could have destroyed their attackers. Instead, they chose hope. They hoped we would be worth it." He smiled, though it did not reach his eyes. "I am going to prove they were right." Before anyone could argue further, a new alert flashed across their displays. Samuel checked his instruments and went pale. "We have a problem. The Armada is accelerating. They are not waiting for their original timeline. They will be in weapons range in 3 hours. Why would they speed up?" Helena demanded. "Because they know what we are planning," the Keeper said. "Someone told them." All eyes turned to the communication logs. Someone in Earth's command structure had transmitted a coded message to the Armada just 30 minutes ago. The contents detailed the broadcast system, the Mercy Protocol, everything. Corvex, Maya realized. He knew about our defenses. He could have passed the information along. "No," David said. "Corvex came here to help us. He risked everything to warn us about the attack." "And who?" The answer walked through the chamber door. General Marcus Foster entered with a dozen armed soldiers, their weapons raised. His face was calm, almost peaceful. "I am sorry, Ambassador," he said, "but I cannot let you do this." Lena moved to intercept, but the soldiers cut her off. There were too many, and they held the only exit. "General," Helena said carefully, "what are you doing?" "What should have been done from the beginning." Foster kept his weapon trained on David. "When the barrier fell, I was terrified. When I learned what humanity really was, I was horrified. We are not explorers, Director. We are not diplomats. We are weapons. Living weapons designed by gods to reshape the galaxy according to their will. That is not who we have to be," David said. "But it is who we are. I have seen the archive recordings, Ambassador. I have seen what the architects could do. What we could do if we unlocked our full potential. We could rule this galaxy. We could make every species kneel before us. And instead, you want to sacrifice yourself so they can have a chance to reject us again? Foster's voice rose with frustration. They killed our creators. They imprisoned us for 11,000 years. They tried to exterminate us 3 weeks ago. And you want to give them mercy? I want to give them truth, David said. What they do with it is up to them. What they will do is destroy us. The moment you show weakness, the moment you prove that humanity can be killed, they will never stop. They will hunt us to extinction, just like they did to the architects. Maybe, or maybe some of them will choose differently. We will never know if we do not give them the chance. Foster shook his head. I will not let you doom our species for a philosophy. He raised his weapon. What happened next occurred in fragments. Samuel threw himself sideways, knocking Maya behind cover. Lena drew her sidearm, impossibly fast for a normal human. 2 of Foster's soldiers dropped before the others could react. But there were too many. A shot struck David in the shoulder. He staggered, but did not fall. The crystal in his hand blazed with light, and something passed between them. A connection, a transfer, an inheritance finally complete. David looked at Foster with eyes that had begun to glow. You are right about one thing, General. We are what the architects made us. But they did not make us to conquer. He raised his hand. Energy flowed from the crystal, through his body, into the chamber around them. Foster's soldiers froze in place, their weapons suddenly weighing 1,000 times normal. Foster himself collapsed to his knees, unable to move. They made us to choose, David continued. Every species in the galaxy was terrified of that choice. They thought if they destroyed us, they would never have to make it. But the choice was never about us. It was always about them. He walked to the central platform where the broadcast system waited. The keeper watched silently, her form now barely visible. Humanity could rule the galaxy, David said. We could make everyone afraid of us, just like they were afraid of the architects. We could spend the next billion years as tyrants, gods, monsters. That is the future Foster wants. That is the future the Armada fears. He placed the crystal into the receiver. It clicked into place, and the entire mountain began to hum. But the architects did not want tyrants for children. They wanted something better. They wanted us to do what they could not. They wanted us to forgive. The system-activated David felt his consciousness expanding, spreading through the ancient networks buried beneath Earth's surface. He felt the memories of the architects flowing into him, through him, outward to the stars. He felt the fear and rage of 1,000 species, the guilt buried for 11 millennia, the desperate hope of a few who had never stopped believing. And he felt himself dissolving into the light. His last sensation was not pain. It was connection. For one impossible moment, he touched every mind in the galaxy. He showed them what the architects had been, what they had dreamed, what they had sacrificed, and what they had hoped humanity would become. Then he was gone. Maya screamed. Lena caught her before she could run to the platform. Samuel stood in shock, tears streaming down his face. On the platform, where David Mercer had stood, there was only light, and across the galaxy, 90,000 ships came to a sudden, unexpected halt. On the flagship of the Armada, Supreme Commander Threll stared at the visions flooding his mind. He saw the architects as they truly were. Not monsters, not tyrants, beings of immense power who had chosen to create rather than destroy. He saw their final moments, the betrayal that ended them, the hope they had placed in a species that did not yet exist. He saw humanity as they were meant to be seen, not as threats, not as weapons, as children who had been given a terrible inheritance and had chosen to use it for mercy instead of vengeance. Around him, His crew wept. Some screamed. A few simply stood in silence, unable to process what they were experiencing. The communications channel crackled with chaos. Ships across the Armada were reporting the same phenomenon. Crews questioning their orders. Commanders unable to give the command to fire. An entire military force paralyzed by truth. Back on Earth, the light faded from the chamber. Maya broke free from Lena and ran to the platform. It was empty. Not even Ash remained. "He is gone," she whispered. "David is gone." But Helena Vasquez was looking at the displays showing the Armada. 90,000 ships, hanging motionless in space. "Maybe," Helena said. "But he gave us something. He gave us time." The Keeper's form materialized one last time, flickering like a dying flame. "The truth has been delivered," she said. "What happens now is no longer in human hands. The galaxy must choose. And for the first time in 11,000 years, they will choose knowing the full weight of what they have done." Her light faded. The last echo of the architects went silent. Maya clutched the scorched platform. Sobbing Lena stood guard over Foster's paralyzed soldiers. Samuel watched the motionless, fleet on his display dot and across the stars. 400 civilizations began the longest conversation of their existence. What would they choose? War or peace? Fear or courage? The death of their guilt or the birth of something new? Humanity waited for the answer. The galaxy held its breath. The silence lasted for 7 days. 90,000 ships hung motionless around Earth's solar system. Their weapons remained charged but unfired. Their crews moved through their duties in a daze, still processing the truth that had been burned into their minds. No one gave orders to attack. No one gave orders to retreat. The galaxy simply waited, frozen at the edge of the greatest decision in its history. On Earth, humanity prepared for either outcome. Maya Patel had not slept since David's death. She worked constantly in the archive chamber, searching through the architect records for anything that might help. Lena Okonkwo organized the defense forces, knowing they were still hopelessly outmatched. Helena Vasquez coordinated the evacuation of major cities. Though everyone knew there was nowhere to hide, Samuel Vega spent his days staring at the stars, waiting for a signal that might never come. On the 8th day, it arrived, not a missile, not an invasion force. A single ship, unescorted, broadcasting an open channel to Earth. "This is High Arbiter Kolvix of the Galactic Council," the message said. "I request permission to land on Earth for peaceful negotiation. I come alone, and I come unarmed." Helena took the call personally. "The High Arbiter who ordered our extermination wants to negotiate." "Former High Arbiter," Kolvix replied. His voice carried a weight it had not held before. I was removed from office 6 days ago, along with every other member of the original council. The Assembly has elected new leadership that witnessed your ambassador's sacrifice and chose to honor it. Maya looked up from her work. "What are you saying?" "I am saying the Armada has been recalled. The extermination order has been canceled, and the Galactic Assembly has voted to extend an invitation to humanity." Kolvix paused. "An invitation to join us, not as enemies, not as overlords, as equals." The silence that followed was heavier than any that came before. "How do we know this is not a trap?" Lena demanded. "You do not," Kolvix admitted. "But your ambassador trusted us with the truth. He believed we could be better than our history. I would like the chance to prove he was right." Helena looked at her advisors. At Maya, exhausted but hopeful. At Lena, suspicious but considering. At Samuel, who was watching the sky with something like wonder in his eyes. "Land at the Himalayan facility," Helena said finally. "We will meet you there." The negotiations lasted 3 months, Representatives from every major civilization came to Earth, stepping onto the soil their ancestors had tried to destroy. Some came with guilt weighing on their shoulders. Others came with curiosity, wanting to see the children of the architects in person. A few came with lingering fear, unable to shake the terror of what humanity could become. Maya led the cultural exchange programs, teaching alien delegates about human history while learning the stories they had been told about the architects. She discovered that many species had worshipped their creators, not knowing they had killed them. The truth broadcast had shattered comfortable lies across the galaxy. Lena oversaw the security arrangements, gradually building trust with military leaders from 100 worlds. She found that soldiers, regardless of species, shared certain traits. They understood duty, sacrifice, and the heavy cost of following orders. Many of them had children back home. Many of them had been afraid. Samuel coordinated the scientific exchanges, sharing human discoveries while cataloging the technologies the galaxy had developed during Earth's isolation. Humanity was millennia behind in some areas, and surprisingly advanced in others. The architects had built their children to grow differently, to find solutions no one else had imagined. Helena Vasquez became humanity's first official representative to the Galactic Assembly. She stood in the same chamber where David had first faced the Council, addressing the same delegates who had once voted for Earth's destruction. "We could have chosen revenge," she told them. "We could have used the architects' technology to do to you what you did to them." Ambassador Mercer had that power. He chose not to use it. He chose to show you the truth instead, hoping you would be brave enough to face it. She paused, letting her words settle. Many of you did not want to face it. You wanted to destroy us and pretend the truth never happened. But enough of you chose differently. You chose to stop fighting. You chose to listen. You chose to be better than your ancestors. The chamber was silent. "That is what the architects hoped for," Helena continued. "Not perfect beings, not gods. Just people who could make different choices when it mattered. People who could learn from their mistakes instead of burying them. People who could grow." She spread her hands to encompass the entire assembly. "We are all the architect's children. Some of us were created directly. Others were uplifted, modified, enhanced. But we all carry their hope in our genetic code. The hope that life could become something better than what came before." A delegate rose from the front row. It was Corvex, no longer High Arbiter, but still influential. What about the humans who disagreed with Ambassador Mercer? General Foster and his supporters? They wanted humanity to rule the galaxy. They wanted conquest. Helena nodded. "They are still among us. They probably always will be. Humans are not unified in our beliefs any more than you are. We have members who want power, who want control, who fear what cooperation might cost us. That is concerning." Yes, but the architects had the same divisions. They had factions who wanted to use their power to dominate rather than create. Those factions lost, and humanity exists because they lost. Helena smiled slightly. "We will not let our worst impulses define us. That is the whole point of having a civilization. We build structures, laws, relationships that are stronger than any individual's worst nature." Another delegate spoke. "And if those structures fail? If humanity decides to become what we feared? Then we will deserve whatever judgment comes. But that is true for all of you as well. Any species with sufficient power can choose to use it for destruction. The question is not whether we can become monsters. The question is whether we will choose not to." The debates continued for weeks. Treaties were drafted. Boundaries were negotiated. Reparations were discussed, though humanity refused them. David had not died to extract payment from the galaxy. He had died to offer them a choice. 1 year after the truth broadcast, the Galactic Compact was signed, The document established Earth as a permanent neutral zone, open to all species. It created exchange programs for culture, science, and education. It established tribunals to address historical injustices without demanding vengeance. And it included a single sentence that would guide galactic relations for generations to come. We choose to grow together rather than fear apart. Maya read those words at the signing ceremony, her voice carrying across the chamber to billions of viewers across the stars. She had been chosen to speak because she had been with David from the beginning. She had watched him become something more than himself, and she had carried his legacy forward. David Mercer once told me that the architects built us to make a choice they could not make themselves, she said. He believed we could be better than our creators, better than our fears, better than our history. She looked at the assembled delegates, at humans and aliens standing together for the first time in 11,000 years. Today, we prove him right. The ceremony ended with applause that transcended species and language. For one moment, the galaxy was united not by fear or force, but by hope. 5 years later, Maya stood at the memorial built where David had given his life. The chamber beneath the Himalayas had been transformed into a museum, telling the story of Earth's isolation and awakening. Millions of visitors came each year, human and alien alike, to learn and remember. Beside her stood her daughter, born 3 years after the compact. The child had David's eyes, a gift from genetic archives she had not known existed until the keeper's final records were decoded. David Mercer had left no biological heirs, but he had left something else, preserved genetic material in the architect systems, intended for a future he knew he would not see. Maya had chosen to use it, to give David's legacy a physical form. Will they come back? The girl asked, looking at the stars visible through the chamber's crystal ceiling. The ones who do not like us. Maybe, Maya admitted. There are still people who fear us. Species who think the architects were wrong to create us. Groups who would rather fight than change. What do we do if they come? Maya knelt beside her daughter, meeting her eyes directly. We do what your father did. We tell them the truth. We show them who we really are. And we hope they choose to be better. The girl thought about this. What if they do not? Then we keep hoping. We keep trying. We keep choosing to be the people the architects believed we could be. Maya smiled. That is what it means to be human. Not being perfect. Just refusing to give up. Above them, ships from 100 worlds crossed the sky, their lights mingling with the stars. The galaxy was still vast, still dangerous, still full of fear and ancient wounds. But it was also full of possibility. Earth had been isolated for millennia. Now it was connected to something larger than itself. And humanity, the children of the architects, was finally home, not as conquerors, not as victims. As equals among the stars. David Mercer had given his life for a chance. That chance had become a future, and the future was just beginning.